Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Motorcast. This is your host, Dave. I got a special guest from Armed Forces Racing, Jeff Lambert. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, good man. How are you?
I'm good. So, Jeff, give me the story on how Armed Forces Racing came about and what's it all about.
Yeah. Armed Forces Racing, it's a nonprofit organization. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and how it came about was I was restoring my drag car, my '64 Galaxy, and we were just bought a new house, kind of moved in, big garage, was restoring the race car, and my neighbor, a couple houses up, came down. He's a car guy himself, a Vietnam veteran, come to find out, and he just started helping us out, with the restoration on the car and kind of hanging out, and his wife said that working on the car and everything has kind of helped him, with the military experiences and some of the things that he was going through, and it's kind of become kind of a therapy kind of a thing for him. So we just thought we would start Armed Forces Racing and really try to help more veterans with it. That's kind of how it got its start. The Galaxy really was supposed to be it was supposed to be a military tribute car to start with. That's what we were kind of doing with it, but because I was in the Navy myself. But anyhow, kind of started helping him and kind of seen some way to help veterans, and so we just we turned it into a nonprofit organization.
So now you help veterans get a experience of drag racing.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we do. So some of our programs, we do build some project cars, but we also have ride-along program, like if you would see, most people are most familiar with, like the NASCAR experiences and things like that, where people used to ride in the cars. Yeah. So we do that for veterans with our drag racing out at a little track here just out. I'm in South Carolina, but just up in Shelby, North Carolina, there's a track up there called Shadyside Drag. The car at no cost, so that was really awesome. Yeah, so it's a really good program we've got going, and we've helped a lot of veterans, and we get to do a lot of things, and it's kind of fun being a veteran. I get to hang out with all the other veterans at the same time as well.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing you're doing, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, so we built a '92 Mustang. So if any veterans are listening right now, they're going to get a kick out of the name of the Mustang, and I'll explain it to people that aren't veterans. But we named the Mustang Project DD214, and every veteran that's listening that's heard that now goes, they completely understand, and they've just got a smile on their face right now because of the name. But a DD214 is your discharge document when you get out of service, and it's kind of your lifeline. It has your dates of service, all your medals. It just has your whole service on this one form from when you're in. Shows that your discharge and things like that. So when you get out, you have to have this DD214. It kind of makes you an official veteran. And this a document now becomes your lifeline for your VA benefits, like your veteran home loans. You need the document, like if you go to get care at the VA hospital, student loans, your GI Bill. You have to have this document for everything. And so it was kind of a fitting name. If you're a veteran, you got to be a veteran to operate and drive our cars. And so we just kind of came up with that name, and it fit well, and the veterans kind of, identify it. It was pretty good.
Now let me go back and ask you this question. We'll go back and get your history of how did you get into drag racing, Jeff?
Yeah, so I was working. I've been a golf professional for 20 years, and I was working at a school as a college golf coach. But I was working out of town. Actually, my wife was still living back at our old home, and so I was going home on the weekends when we weren't having our college tournaments and things. And so, just one weekend, I just decided not to go home, and there was a drag strip just kind of around the corner. So I just loaded up the truck with a chair and a cooler, and went down there and said, I'm going to go watch some racing. And so I just kind of backed up to the fence that's close to the finish line, and was just sitting there in the back of the truck watching it and kind of trying to figure it out, and ran into some racers, some guys that, obviously had some experience and knew what was going on, and they started giving me a lesson about what was going on, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I went and bought the Galaxy that I actually still drive today, that red 64 Galaxy with American flag on it. But back then it was red, but it didn't have an American flag on it. But I bought that car and paid $300 for it out of a junkyard, and it was beat up too, pretty bad. But bought that car and spent the next 3 years every week going to the drag strip on Saturday, and then the rest of the days of the week working on that car trying to build it. And that kind of got me hooked. I know it sounds a little cocky, but I'd watched it for racing for so long that I thought, man, this is something I could do. I could be really good at this. And so that just kind of drove me a little bit more to want to do it. And that was like in 2003. And in 2005, we got the car finished and got it on the track. And then, I won 6 races my first year of racing. So that was a pretty good. And then won the Gold Card Championship there at the track. So I had a pretty successful rookie year, too.
So right now, what do you got under the hood of the Galaxy?
It's got a big block Ford in it, a 385 series big block. And that kind of ties back into when I started racing. So back when I was building this car, there was a guy who had this 70 Lincoln at a junkyard, and I just wanted the motor and transmission, and they wouldn't sell it to me, but they'd sell me the whole car. I guess they wanted the whole car gone. So they wanted $300 for the whole car. So I just bought the whole car, loaded it up on a trailer, and took it to another junkyard and said, I'll give you the car for scrap if you'll pull the motor and transmission out for me. And they was like, yeah, hang out 45 minutes. They had the motor and transmission out. And so that motor was, I say it's still the same motor. It's not the same motor. I've blown up several engines since then, but I still run the exact same heads off of that motor in my car. And so it came out of a 70 Lincoln. It's a 460. It's Ford 30 over, so it makes it a 466. It's really just a souped up street motor. I mean, I've kind of stayed with the same recipe as far as the engine build goes in that car, and it'll run in the good weather. I've ran a 6.72, 672 in the 8th mile at 100 mile an hour in that car.
So yeah. was that the quickest run time you'd had with the car?
Yeah, that's the quickest I've been in it. Yeah, went a 672 at 100 mile an hour, and the car with me in it weighs 3,600 pounds. So that's moving along pretty good for a big old heavy car.
Now, have you ever done the quarter mile?
I've never done the quarter mile in it. I've been asked to do it, and I've been invited to come with race some of the nostalgia racing leagues and stuff around, but it's geared for the 8th mile, and I shift the car at 6,000 RPMs, and I'm at 5,800 RPMs when I go across the finish line in an 8th mile. So I'd be quite a bit out of gear trying to get it to go down a quarter.
All right. So now, Jeff, what was the experience like for you the first time ever going down a drag strip with the car?
Oh man! So my very first time down the drag strip, I didn't actually get to drive my car. I got to drive a buddy of mine by the name of Jeff Jasper. He had a 64. Oh man, I can't remember what it was. It was a Dodge something, Dodge or Plymouth. I can't remember now, but it was just about as fast as what my car was back in the day. It ran about 725 in the 8th mile. But my first experience, man, I was it's funny how it seems to scare you back in that day. I left the line. I didn't know what I was doing, obviously, but he gave me a quick lesson and just turned me loose. But I can remember, even as slow as that car was, it left pretty hard. And I can remember this tunnel vision. It was like I just couldn't really see nothing. I actually let out of the throttle a little bit because I wasn't sure what was going on there, And but that little bit of tunnel vision right there, and I was like, oh man! And then so when I got my car built, it was about as fast as his. And it's funny, you get that little tunnel vision that first time, but you kind of expect it after that, and it doesn't really happen to you anymore.
So now,
yeah, but it was a blast though.
On that first pass in your buddy's car, did you do a buy run, or did you race somebody?
No, I did a single pass. It was a test and tune night. And it was a single pass. Of course, everybody there by that time knew me and knew that I was a rookie driver. So I don't think anybody really wanted to go down beside me. But the track also knew, and so they didn't let anybody go with me. Yeah, they let me go by myself.
All right, now. For you, do you have any drag racers, that you any heroes for you?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you this, the guys that I kind of look up to and kind of pay attention to are, there's a guy by the name of Luke Bogacki. He's a world champion, in the sportsman class racing. He's won several world championships. I look up to that guy. He's kind of my mentor, in a way. There's a couple of guys that helped us get started and get along, going. A couple of veterans that they run a pro mod team out of North Carolina. Les Mortensen and John Weldon. Those guys really helped get Armed Forces Racing off the ground. They were kind of our backing to help us with the money, to get the attorneys and those kinds of things going. So, that's the kind of heroes I look after. The guys that have kind of taken me under their wing and kind of helped me along. Luke Siebert out of Siebert Performance out of Kansas. They really, kind of stepped up and helped us get along with trying to tune the cars and get carburetors on them and things like that. So those are the people that I look up to the most.
Now, since you've been doing this drag racing thing, you have a need for speed to go faster?
It's funny. Yes, you do. I think my Galaxy goes fast enough. I would like to try to go faster, but I don't. But I don't want my Galaxy to go faster. I mean, I'm still running. I have a ladder bar under the back of it. It's coilover suspension under the back. But I am still running 1964 technology as far as, control arms, the A-frame suspension. The 64 Galaxies were kind of oddball. They have this offset kind of a crazy thing, with the steering and the rear of the I put disc brakes on it, so it's the rear of the caliper steering instead of the front like modern cars do today. So I don't really care for that car to go that much faster, but I would like to go faster. And we're actually building one of our veteran project cars. We're building a car to go faster. We're hoping it's going to be 580s, 590s, and it's a 93 Mustang.
Nice.
Yeah, so go ahead.
So now, have you ever ran against any of the veterans when they raced you? Have you ever raced against them?
Yeah, I did. One of our veteran racing experience cars is a 92 Mustang, and that's a pretty slow car. And we do bracket racing, so so it's kind of handicap racing. So I had to run him second round. I don't know. It's maybe been 3 or 4 weeks ago. You try not to line up beside each other. When they call you down in the staging lanes, you're like, hey, let's get right behind each other so we don't have to run each other. But he didn't quite get the memo, I guess. He lined up in the right lane. I lined up in the left lane. We had to run each other. Yeah. So I have had to run him. His name was Rick Farrell. He's the Vietnam veteran I spoke of earlier that came down to the shop and kind of helped us get started.
Yeah. So did you beat him?
Yeah, I beat him. I told him. I said, if you want this win, you're going to have to earn it. I ain't giving it to you. and I went on to win that race that night, too.
Now, when you take the Galaxy out to the track, Jeff, how many crew members do you have?
So, if I go to the track without any veterans going, it's just me. I just go. But we always have veterans that want to go to the track with us, and that's another one of the experiences that we do that I didn't mention earlier is the crew experience. So we may have one veteran, two veterans, three veterans, or something like that come out, and then when they do, and I can tell you, man, that's a whole lot easier when you have somebody helping you. But I'll do it by myself too if I have to. A lot of guys do. So I mean, it's not uncommon in our world to do that by yourself. But it sure is nice when you have those veterans going out with you.
Yeah. So then, when you don't have the veterans, you do all your own work on the car at the track.
Yeah. So we try not to do a whole lot of work on the car at the track. I mean, as far as like any kind of tuning or anything like that, I try to have that done beforehand. You know, I've got so much data on this car now over the years that, you know, with weather and with altitude and those kinds of things, I already kind of know what to expect with the car. So I don't really have to do that. But, you know, you're still checking tire pressures and you're still charging batteries and still fueling, trying to cool the car, you know. That's the biggest thing with bracket racing is just making sure that the car is the same every time. Same tire pressure, same temperatures, you know, even down to the transmission temperature and, you know, things like that. And some guys even get really particular. I got a 5-gallon fuel cell and I'll fill that up and I can get 3 or 4 passes on that before I have to put fuel in it again. Some guys get really particular and they'll, you know, they want to make sure it's full every pass, so they put fuel in it and that kind of stuff. But I find my car doesn't really move around that much ET-wise with that fuel being down, you know, a gallon or so. So I'll do it every 3 or 4 passes. But that's about as much work as we do at the track.
So what kind of tires are running on the car?
Hoosier, man. That's the best tire company in the world. I love my Hoosiers. They sponsor us. I cannot tell you. I've ran other brands, and I found that the Hoosier is our smoothest tire that I've ever been down the track on. That's by far, and they last longer. The tread on them lasts longer. I can get an extra 100 passes out of the Hoosier versus some of the other brands that I ran in the past. And Hoosier, I love them.
All right, now you said Hoosier is sponsored for you. How many sponsors do you have?
Oh boy, wow! I'd have to stop and count them. So I don't. I'd have to stop and count them. So I won't think.
Well, you can just name them if you can name them.
Yeah, sure. So Competitive Suspension Solutions. They do all of our tuning. Seaver Performance, they do all of our carburetors. You got Hoosier, K&N. K&N was our very first sponsor we ever got. K&N filters, Risk Racing. Quick story, an interesting story about Risk Racing. Risk Racing is actually a motocross company, but they have this gas can that is perfect for like our disabled veterans, anybody that we have maybe that's an amputee with one arm. They've got this gas tank can that you can actually pour fuel with one-handed. And so anyway, so they came on board and helped us with some gas cans. We just picked up Pro One Safety today. They donated and gave us all of our racing jackets for the veterans, for our veterans ride-along experiences, you know, for that. And then J&L Fleet Services, that's John and Les that I spoke to you about earlier. They're not in their company is a J&L Fleet Services. They run the Pro Mod team there, and I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out here, you know, important. But Woody's Drum Pumps, that's the drum pump that we pump our fuel out with there, and like I said, I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out.
Now, Jeff, when you're out on the track, racing, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions at all?
Let's see. I I don't have superstitions, but I do try to. I tell you, one of the things that I try to do is I try to make everybody that's there watching me race. When I say watching me, they're watching everybody race, but they're down there, and then when it's my turn to race, they're watching me. Right? I try to look at as many people in the stands. I try to look at as many people standing down there on the start line. I try to look at each one of those people in the eye, and I try to make sure that they know that I've recognized them down there. I always thought that was pretty important. That's something I took from Arnold Palmer, believe it or not, in golf. Arnold Palmer would do that. He would look at everybody in the crowd, and he said it was just kind of his way of saying thanks for being there, and I've kind of adapted that. So I try to make sure if there's a little kid down there, I wave at them. You know, a lot of guys, and that's okay if they do this, but a lot of guys get really intense and get really focused in on what they're doing. You know, I don't turn that switch on and focus until it's time to do the burnout. So when I come through the water box and we have to sit there for the pair in front of us to leave, I kind of have this ritual that I like to just look at everybody, I'll wave at them, smile at them. You know, I've even given people high fives before, opened up the door and give them a high five or something. But you know, but as soon as the burnout starts, then that's when my focus, and that's when I turn it on to my job and what I've got to do.
All right, now where do you get all your fire safety equipment from?
My fire equipment?
All your fire suit and all that good stuff?
So all of our safety equipment, our fire suits and our seat belts and gloves and everything, that comes from Pro One Safety. Charlotte and Jeff Heffler out of Texas, that's where that comes from. We run a fire suppression system in our car, in our cars, and that's not a sponsor of ours, but we purchase them out of Jegs. You know, out of Jegs is where we purchase all them.
All right, now, what goes into the preparation to get the Galaxy ready for a weekend of drag racing?
Yeah, so we nut and bolt the thing, you know, put it up on the lift, you know, go under the car, you know, check all the nuts and bolts, make sure there's no leaks that we don't have, make sure there's like not a freight fuel line or a brake line. You know, we look over all those things, kind of have a little checklist we go over. You know, we torque the wheels, make sure they're torqued and nice and ready. You know, definitely wouldn't want that to come off. You know, making sure our ladder bar under there, all those nuts and bolts are all there and nice and tight. You know, look over the suspension. One of the biggest things is I converted the front of the Galaxy over to disc brakes. I don't understand why, and everybody that races knows this, but those particular calipers that we use, the bolts that hold that mounting bracket on right there, for some reason they like to back out. You could put a bottle of Loctite on them, they still seem to want to back out on you, so you got to make sure you check them each time, and then check your fluids and your engine, and you know, and just go over all that stuff. And after we get all that done, we give it a bath and make sure we can see out of the windows, and then load it up on the trailer, and then get all of our gear loaded up in the truck. You know, that we have to take generators and fans and things like that.
So now, Jeff, what's your favorite track to run on?
Oh boy, man, let's see. I would have to say my favorite track, as far as that's a tough one. I'm going to say I like Darlington Dragway track about as good as anywhere. Now, that's and I like to race there, but my favorite place to race, I couldn't name one. I'd have to name two, and I'd have to say it's either Greer Dragway or Shadyside Dragway, because they're old school. They've got that old feel about them. You know, they're not modern. When I say they're not modern, they don't have the modern feel.
Right. Now, since you've been doing the drag racing, have you reached any milestones?
Yeah, I mean, I got two track championships. But I would say that our greatest achievement and our greatest milestone was the I always had this dream of putting a veteran in the car and sending them down the track. And I out of all the races I've won and all the rounds that I've won and the trophies and all those things, that has to stand out the most. To see a veteran go down the track for the very first time, even though it's in a slow car, our Mustang, like I said, runs 850s. To them, it doesn't feel that slow, So to see them get out of the car and step out of the car each time for their very first time down the track, I can't think of anything greater that we do.
Awesome. So now, where are we now? Have you had any accidents or near close calls throughout your career?
I've not had any accidents, but I've had close calls, and it was just here recent. I got some new glasses, and the new glasses kind of threw my depth perception off, and you didn't kind of notice it until you sat down in the race car. But it's really weird. But the steering wheel, when I looked down at the steering wheel, the right side of the steering wheel looked like it was like 3 feet away from me, and the left side of the steering wheel looked like it was up in my chest. And I was like, oh, man. So, and I can't see without my glasses, so I went ahead and pulled up in the left-hand lane right there, and I thought I was lined up straight, but my car doesn't do a big wheelie, but it does enough of a wheelie, and it does it just far enough that it makes a difference, and I was not lined up straight down the track, and I almost hit the Christmas tree. I mean, I was lined up way right and couldn't tell it, and that's probably the closest I've ever come to wrecking, was even crossing the center line right there. Yeah, but luckily, no accidents.
Yeah, knock on wood, you won't have none.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't want any.
So now, after the years you've been drag racing, what still keeps you passionate about doing this?
I'm competitive, man. I mean, it's a winning's nice, but I hate losing. I hate it. I hate losing. I hate it. I hate it. And to be in that car, competing against somebody else or myself, even, I'm always striving for perfection, and perfection is not really something that's always attainable in a race car. But I'm always striving for that perfection, and those are the kinds of things that just keep driving me.
Yeah, all your buddies become your enemies at the start line.
Yeah.
Once you get to that starting line, they're not your buddies no more. You want to beat
them. As soon as, like I said earlier, as soon as I start that burnout, I want to beat you pretty bad.
Then once you get to the end of the track, you guys are buddies again.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
I've went over and shook many a buddy's hands after they put a good whooping on me. Matter of fact, I got a good whooping for one of my buddies this last weekend, and I put a good pass down, and he just beat me like a stepchild.
Did he get you on the tree?
Yeah, he did. I was 017 and he was 009. and then down there at the other end, now it's just a dogfight, I mean, obviously he's got the advantage, and down there at the other end, I'm whomping the throttle and dragging the brake and everything I can do to try to get behind him a little bit, and he knows that I'm doing it, so he's trying to get behind me. It was a big fight. He gave me a good lesson down there, so I have to get him back.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll have another race with him again. You can get him back.
Oh yeah, we'll get him.
Now, doing this drag racing thing with the Armed Forces Racing, you have a greatest competitor out there?
Do we have a what?
A greatest competitor that you race with?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I race with a lot of good competitors, man. With the Armed Forces Racing, our veterans. Most of our veterans, when they race, are rookies. So that they're really just trying to learn the game, in the armed forces racing, cars. But now, I mean, I say that, but we had a Marine in the car this past weekend that, he's been racing his whole life, and so we put him in the car, and he actually took the points leader out first round this last weekend. But for me, the competitors, I mean, man, there's today in the bracket racing world. Actually, I'll surprise people with this to say, but bracket racing, drag racing pays more money than NHRA does to win a race now. So, I mean, there was just a race that paid $525,000 to win.
Wow.
That was just to win. $525,000. And Brett Cummings and those guys in Memorial Day of next year, they're paying $1 million to win. So I say all that to say that people are stepping up their games in this racing. The cars are better than they've ever been. These guys are, another sponsor of ours. I knew I should get somebody, Portatree. Portatree makes practice trees now. And all these guys, they all have these practice trees. They'll kill you on the tree. You've got to stay on top of your game. I mean, these guys, they're not playing anymore. We're racing for such big money anymore that, these guys are making their living at this now. I run armed forces racing for my living and fortunate enough to get to race while I do it. But, a lot of these guys are, they're pouring their hearts and souls into this and they'll kill you. You better be paying attention to what you're doing anymore. So they're all good.
All right, now, do you have any hobbies outside of drag racing?
Yeah, I don't really know. I guess I said yes, but I haven't really done it in a while. But I'm a licensed pilot. I love to fly airplanes, but I haven't done it in a few years. Whenever I kind of started the Armed Forces Racing in 2017, that took so much of my focus. I haven't really flown in a long time, but airplanes, that's what I like to do. I like to fly. I love to collect World War II, airplane memorabilia. If you look at my race car on my right beside my train's temperature gauge, I mounted a little World War II F-6 fighter pilot plane, little die-cast plane right there on my car, because I always feel like I'm a fighter pilot in my race cars. I'm always in a dogfight and want to win, kind of a thing. But I would say I'd say World War II airplane, collecting that stuff, and flying airplanes is about the only other thing I do outside of racing.
All right, now, how many plaques and trophies, stuff like that, have you won throughout your racing career?
Phew, man. We don't really do trophies in auto racing very much. They'll do these trailer checks, the big checks you get, won a couple of those. That's something I probably should know, but I really don't know how many races I've won, I'm going to say I've probably won 25 races in my career.
All right, now, if you were able to do time traveling, Jeff, and go back in time, would you do anything differently with your drag racing career?
Wow. Yeah, I would. I would go back and tell myself how to make my car what it is today 15 years ago. 15 years ago, my car wasn't as good as it is today. And, a good lesson that I learned in the last year from two guys, Luke Siebert and Michael Beard, both told me this. Michael Beard's a really good racer and a race promoter, by the way. And Luke Siebert's an awesome racer himself. But they said the day that you quit, stop trying to make your car better, is a big mistake, really what it comes down to. So I've spent the last year just, even as good as I thought my car was, trying to make it better. And then that's when Shane Swigert from Competitive Suspension Solutions came along and said, we can make it better. And if I could go back in time and tell myself what I know about my car today, what I needed to do back then, I would have probably won 100 races by now.
All right, now, Jeff, what's your favorite food to eat?
What's my favorite what?
Favorite food to eat.
Oh, favorite food. Man, I'm a big guy. You put it down there, I'm pretty much going to eat it. But I tell you, I do have a favorite food. And now people are going to be like, this. Actually, I got two favorite foods. I'm a big guy. We're allowed two. One, I love a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with, I've got a homemade chili recipe I like to cook. And I love a peanut butter and jelly sandwich dipped in my homemade chili. That's one of my favorite foods. Yeah, that is really good. And people won't. I can't get people to try it. They think it sounds gross, but it's not. But another one of my favorite foods is a baked potato, and you fix. It's got to be double cheeseburger hamburger helper. The double cheeseburger one now. It's got to be that. And you fix that, but you fix it with Jimmy Dean hot sausage. And you fix your baked potato. You cut your baked potato open and smash it, and put some of that double cheeseburger hamburger helper on it, and put some sour cream on top of it, and that is really good too. That's my two favorite foods.
All right, now what's your favorite beverage to drink?
Man, I'm a Coke Zero guy. Coke Zero, that's it.
All right, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh. Favorite movie would be, wow. I would have to say I really enjoyed the movie. I always go back to it. Moneyball. That Moneyball. If you ever seen that, it's about the Oakland A's and how they turned their team around. That's one of my favorite movies.
All right, what's your favorite music to listen to?
Man, this is going to surprise a lot of people that think they know me, but I love hard rock and heavy metal. I like bluegrass. I like heavy metal. I like classic country. I'll listen to just about all of it, really. But if I had to pick one, I'd say I love to listen to some heavy metal.
Yeah, because hard rock and heavy metal always go good drag racing.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the funny story about that, real quick. My crew chief, Rick Farrell, the Vietnam veteran, he's 72 years old, and then when he comes down to the shop, I mean, I've got this stuff jamming. I'm out there jamming, man. And he comes down. Of course, he's 72 years old. He don't like listening to it, so I have to turn it off when he comes down.
So, what's your favorite heavy metal band?
Man, I would have to say, if you kind of went old school, I like Metallica. I listened to a lot of Metallica.
Now, when you say Metallica, you like older Metallica or newer Metallica?
Yeah, older Metallica.
Yeah, like Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, stuff like that.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if I had, if you had to name one, that's who I would name. But I mean, I listen to, a lot of your old school stuff. I remember when I was in the military, we, listening to a lot of old Metallica stuff, and so I kind of just stick with them. Yeah.
So, what do you think of bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, stuff like that?
Yeah, Iron Maiden was a big one. Listened to a lot of them. I remember I hung out with this guy in the Navy a lot that played guitar. And he played electric guitar, and he'd play a lot of like Red Hot Chili Pepper stuff. Kind of turned me on to that kind of stuff. But yeah, the harder the better for me, though.
Now, what was your favorite cartoon when you were growing up as a kid?
My favorite what?
Your favorite cartoon when you were a kid?
My favorite toy?
No, favorite cartoon. Did you have a favorite cartoon on TV?
Oh, cartoon. Yes. Foghorn Leghorn.
I was like, hold on there, boy.
Yeah. If you stick your head inside of my race car, you'll see a big old stuffed doll or toy, whatever you want to call it, a Foghorn Leghorn.
I ain't a chicken, that's a chicken. Always pointing to the dog.
Yeah.
Make the
Oh,
chicken.
yeah.
The
He
little
goes out
chicken
there to
hawk.
spank him and then runs at the end of the chain.
I'm a chicken hawk. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what was your most embarrassing moment on the track?
I have been asked this question a lot, and I'm not a guy that gets easily embarrassed. And so I really don't have an embarrassing moment. I have, I'm just not a guy that gets embarrassed. So for what might embarrass some other people would never embarrass me. So I really don't have one.
All right, now since you're a veteran, and I'm going to ask you this question: What do you think about President Trump?
Wow. He's our president, and I support him because he is our president. I fought as a veteran for everyone's right to vote and everyone's right to have their opinion. But I will say that I think President Trump has done a tremendous job for our veterans. And that's where my interest and care, goes to.
Right.
And so I would say as a president, no matter what party you affiliate with, I would say you'd have to respect him for what he has done. The VA, and I use the VA has changed a lot since he's been the president, and I can tell you it's changed for the better. And there's a lot of things, and I could talk about that for hours, so I won't. But I'm just saying what he's done in the VA and how he's made that better for veterans and for veterans to get care. He got my vote for it.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good things for a lot of stuff, but of course, fake news media spin it around and give you a different story.
Well, now that's true. That is true, but I can only tell you for a fact of what my experiences have been through for the VA and how he has changed that, and I can tell you, as we got a saying in the Navy, bravo Zulu, Mr. President, job well done.
Yep. Now, what would you consider to be the fondest memory of your drag racing career?
Man, I got to tell you, the first time we sent a veteran down the track and watched him get out of the car and could not quit smiling, it just doesn't get any better than that for me. I love to win races. I love to win runs. Now, if you want me to give you one that's personal for me, my very first win is probably my fondest memory because nobody thought I could do it. I was a rookie. I wasn't supposed to win. Actually, that night that I won, all my buddies left because they're like, well, he's just going to get beat the next round, and they left. And I showed up at the shop the next morning. They still didn't know that I'd won the race. And they said to me, how'd it go last night? And I said, I got this problem. And then, of course, they all making fun of me at this point. They're like, oh, here we go with the excuses. What was the problem this time? And I said, I don't know where on the window to put this winner sticker. And so I kind of got them back for leaving me a little bit. But, but nobody expected me to win, and I won that night, and I loved it.
Awesome. So now, if people want to find out where you're going to be at, can they go on the Armed Force Racing page and find out where you're going to be racing at?
Yeah. So I'm kind of slacking, to be honest with you, on our website. I haven't got the rest of the year's schedule posted up there. But if you our Facebook page, and I apologize for that, but our Facebook page will have the announcements and the events as they come up for our racing schedule. You can follow it